All right, here we are. Hey, folks. Tab and India here, back at Alliance LARP Crossroads.
Tab, did you just almost do your YouTube intro?
Yeah! Live! We're live. Have I mentioned we're live? Hi, guys. So we are here. We got a bunch of stuff to cover this live stream with you. A whole bunch of very, very exciting things coming to the LARP world, the Alliance world, and the Crossroads world. I'd like to start it off with some local things. First with Crossroads, just some basic info about what we got coming down the pipe. Our opener is coming out soon, April 12th. The weekend of April 12th, 13th, and 14th. Now, our main game days are the 13th and 14th. The 12th is more for a setup day. Now, I say this for those that show up on the Friday night and help out set up. We usually have a great time. And once we get more developed with folks showing up on Fridays, we'll start to try to add a little bit more, maybe low-key role-play stuff. Not a fully developed game yet, because I truly think that learning learning in the daytime, it has its advantages for our very first fight of the weekend.
Yeah, the Crossroads site is not the most friendly at night if you've never been there. But we always, even if we're not doing anything game-wise, we do hang out. You know, sometimes we have a fire depending on the weather, and you know, we hang out and have a good time.
Quite true. Quite true. It is a good time indeed. So we're going to have our kids event. We are going to have our second event of the year in May 10th, the weekend of May 10th. So we got a pretty cool season coming to you guys. We have a new setup in our little our little abode here. Like we have so much room for activities, guys. It's going to be great. Anyway, I'm very excited about it.
This means I can't wear pajama pants to the live streams anymore.
Well, there we go. The secret's out. But yeah, we have a really cool show for you guys. We're going to give you some information about stuff that's coming out for our opener. We have a special guest with us today in our incoming head of plot, Lawrence, and we're going to talk about some issues that might be a little uncomfortable for some folks, but I think it's going to be very informative for everybody, and I'm very much looking forward to speaking with Lawrence in the next couple of minutes here. But first, we wanted to get to just some details about what we got in the opener. So we are going to have a food vendor yet again in the opener. So here we go. Can I do this right? Is it going to happen? Yes! Yes! Intro, new setup, and it still works. Okay, guys. So we're going to have 420 Munchies back on site with us. If you remember last year, they vended for us, and we had a great time with them. Good. Now, I think they did the closure, yeah?
Yes, they did.
Now, great group of people. I will say this, their menu is being updated, so the prices here, may not be 100% accurate because this is last year's prices, and I know nothing has gotten cheaper.
No.
So if there is a bump to this price list, I would not be surprised, folks. So, you know, take that as a rounding issue, and just know that these prices may indeed have to be risen for them to cover their costs.
Yeah.
But we have a food vendor again. You know, as you can see, we have everything on that menu. Why don't you tell everybody about it while I grab a little drink here.
Yeah, 420 Munchies is delicious. I'm starting to get spoiled with having a food truck on site because it's always hot, it's always fresh, and you just get it whenever you want it because they will be there all day pretty much. So just go snack all throughout the day. Their empanadas are delicious, and also a fantastic LARP food because they're handheld.
Very much so. Very much so. And I will say that every single food vendor that we've had come out before has always been very happy when they leave because we eat, especially when it is, and we're finding that we're kind of opening up the meal times because they don't mind staying open all day because we keep on showing up all day. Now we do have our meal times where we slow things down so everybody can go eat. And they know that's coming, but they're really enjoying staying open through the day and just kind of trickle selling things when people want it. And
especially like the snacky things. I mean, especially with like backstage at NPC camp, you didn't always get a meal break, especially when you're on staff. So being able to go like grab snacks throughout the day was fantastic. And I know that I probably single-handedly bought out those tostones from 420 Munchies.
Indeed. Yeah, they were great last year. So we have them set up to come out for our opener. Now we have set out some feelers to some other food vendors throughout the year for the rest of our games. We would love to have the Crepe Escape bus come back.
Yes.
However, they're getting their bus upgraded, so they're actually going to be down for the next couple of months. But
That's cool for
we're
them,
going to
though.
see, we're going to see an upgraded Crepe Escape bus, hopefully by the end of our season. So good luck, Crepe Escape. We'd love to see you guys back out with us to check out our game. So, speaking of our game, India, we
Yes.
have some.
Also, I'm not being rude, I promise. I'm responding to chats.
Yeah, she's responding to chat, and we have a new setup that is very confusing to me right now.
It feels backwards.
It does.
'Cause
It's
we're
weird.
facing the other direction. I don't know. It feels backwards. I think we're just because we're farther this way.
Parts unknown is a weird place, but so we have some needs at Crossroads that I think you guys can help with. And we're going to be putting out the word throughout our episodes throughout the year here. But we've had some wear and tear happen.
As it does.
To some of our equipment, and since
Weather and LARPers, they just destroy things, you know?
very much so, very much so. So between what the chapter needs and what the channel needs to continue operations, now we've had some great upgrades this year. We've already had some upgrades to the studio, as you can see. We've had there's a new vehicle in the mix, a little black
Yes.
van now instead of my little gray thing that I had before. Now we have a more spacious vehicle to get back and forth to your LARPs with.
Which means that I'm not in the back seat holding all the camera gear like, this is fine.
Very true, very true. So, which is something that is really super cool is the Alliance. Albert, the GM of the Alliance and the Alliance as a whole, has supported us by giving us some dragon stamps for our past work of all of the episodes that we've made for all of the other chapters. So to best use those, to utilize those, we think that instead of doing a pure monetary fundraiser, we need like individual things now.
Yeah, like specific things.
Yeah, and we made a wish list because that went okay during the national.
Yeah.
So I have it here,
And I have a link.
Yeah, and we're going to be dropping a link. Again, this is something that we're going to be letting you guys take a look at here. Now there are some higher end items here. These are the cameras that we would like to eventually go to. Actually, we could, we'll take either one of those, really.
Yeah.
But we also have some things for the site. Now, this is obviously Crossroads site specific, and some things are like, for the higher end items, folks, we're just putting it out there just in case some billionaire that's not evil wants to change the site forever, because myself and India have noticed over the past 2 years of working on this project, every time we have a wouldn't that be a good problem to have talk, that problem shows up. It shows up a lot sooner than we thought, which is good things, and we're very happy to see how fast everything is growing. But so there are going to be some caveats for these larger ticket items, but some of these things like these sheds and things, they are for our props, our backstage. We have a module area on the back of the site that it would be great to have a mini NPC camp back there with one of these sheds. So that's more site stuff. So if you want to help out the Crossroads site, all of these, and we will reimburse you at the rate of, what is the dragon stamp rate right now?
One dragon stamp per $5.
Correct. So in multiples of that, and even if some of these things are under the $500 limit, which I believe is the national limit for getting dragon stamps now, if you're getting us these individual things, we'll make sure you get the dragon stamp equivalent of what you got. We have a different special way to get them to you from our own chapter's coffers.
Yes.
But again, check out that link. Check out all of this stuff. Again, thanks, Tony. $250.
Oh, nice.
Excellent. So most of these things apply. Now, this thing right here is, I think, super special. Because this is to help India out. Now, India's been doing a lot more of the editing than normal. We've been kind of double teaming it over this season. I think it's going pretty good. I'm enjoying myself.
I'm learning.
that we are certainly learning. We hope you guys enjoyed the episodes. But this is RAM for her computer, so it could handle Photoshop, not Photoshop,
Adobe Premiere.
Adobe Premiere better. That's what we use for editing.
And After Effects, so I could start doing some cool things in the videos. But yeah, currently where it sits, my computer does her very best, but she's maxed out with me trying to edit. It's very sad, but you know, she's 4 years old, so she needs a little bit of help.
She's tired.
She's tired.
But we know that this simple upgrade right here is something that would really help out India. And again, you can knock it off of the list. We'll throw you the dragon stamp equivalent of it. And that would really help us out. Now, the one thing that we can't put on our list that I think, aside from all of the dream cabins and the nice little storage sheds, I'm going to pull it up right here. I had to go right to the sexy part. Always preload the image. Anyway, so this is something that we're trying to pick up in a perfect world before the opener, but we know that this is a very, very large purchase. This is something that the chapter is going to be working towards all year long. So if you can only donate money to the chapter, the same rules apply that if you donate more than the $250, we'll be able to get you dragon stamps for it. But this is the thing that we're trying to get for the chapter. Now, I can explain this to those that don't have the permanent site thing. So our budget is like razor thin, okay? So when we have to rent the equivalent of this, because we currently don't have an accessible Porta-John. We run off of Porta-Johns and we own them all. So when we had to rent it last year, it was something around $600-700 a month. And we cannot sustain that cost for something that we're not going to be utilizing except for 12 days out of the year. But this, if we were to purchase this one is a permanent site solution to our site, a permanent fix to a problem that we have. We want to be more accessible. We've had George takes his motor scooter, his little rascal, up and down the site. So it is possible if you are, rocking some wheels, that you can get around if you have something that's built to get around a good lawn. But we just don't have the Porta-John for you yet, and I'd love to be able to get this and be able to shout to high heavens that we can get some more folks out there. So that's our spiel about the way that you guys can help us out. Again, the Alliance has been super cool about giving some dragon stamps to us so we can kind of recuperate some of the equipment that we've either lost, broken, or just is getting worn down. These 3D cameras right now, I think we have enough GoPro 9s to get us through this season. That's our action camera. But our 3D cam and that one with the big, if I've been on your site before and shot, it's the one with the big fisheye lens. It's meant to shoot the VR stuff and some really cool point of view things. It's a very high-end camera, but it has been taking a beating.
Literally.
Yeah. We need something that is, these are both smaller and newer, so they'll do the job and be suitable replacements. And of course, if anybody has ever seen me on site, they know that I'm mowing all the time. So we killed one mower last year and got close to killing our 0 turns. So again, this is the home run, and this is the thing that we sure could use quite soon. All right.
In regards to this list, like, this is our wish, like our dream list, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of them are higher ticket items. If you get a group together and want to buy something as a group, we will figure out how best to, split the dragon stamps among you so that everybody gets a fair shake of those dragon stamps. If you don't have, the means to do something like that by yourself, I will happily work with you guys on a group purchase of something.
There are going to be some restrictions if you want to build a cabin for your team. You'll have to lean towards the bigger ones that have windows that you can crawl out of and doors that you can open and close easily. It's a requirement, and that's what I said with all of the additional things that for the bigger purchase. If you want to go in on a cabin, we we can do this, and we can also provide you some in-game perks, like always, you'll have your own cabin in-game that'll exist in-game, and all those types of things.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come back to the full studio now. So again, we have, we're going to get to our new merch. We're going to get to the Patreon stuff. I really, how are we looking on time? We're at like 8:16.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I have my cheat sheet over here this time, guys, instead of the little sticky
We're all just like,
things.
we're drifting over here constantly because we're reading our list.
So, all right. So I'm going to get ready and make sure that our guest is ready. He can give us a wave when he knows that we know. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to bring on our guest, Lawrence. We're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion in the LARP sphere. And Lawrence, when I first met Lawrence down in the Atlanta chapter, we had some really cool conversations about some organizations that he was involved with and some perspectives. And from there, he's gotten involved up in Crossroads and is one of, I think, the future type LARPers, to where he moves between games as a runner so fluidly, and I'm really excited to see what he brings to the game. So we're gonna have a conversation with our friend here, Lawrence. I'm going to make sure that you are unmuted. Right. So right, and we're gonna bring you on.
Click on that.
I'm gonna bring them clicking on that.
There you go.
And I'm gonna click on. There we are. Hey, Lawrence, say hey to everybody.
Hey, how's it going? How's everybody doing?
It's going great, going great. Thank you again, Lawrence, so much for coming out. And we got some talking points from you that we'd love to go over, but we're willing to, give our space over here for you, our platform for however that is, and take it away.
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for everything over the past, we've known each other maybe a little bit over a year now, Tab, I think, is when we first met.
Yep.
And wow, like you've done a lot for me just in our conversations, just some of the perspectives that you provided on the Alliance and what it's like to be a part of this community, and inviting me and welcoming me into the community, and allowing me to help tell stories with everyone here. And I'm super, super excited about like what we have coming up for this upcoming season. I'm sure we'll probably talk about a little bit more about Crossroads and what our story looks like for this upcoming season. But yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a couple of things I'd love to discuss and get your thoughts on, and India, about diversity and inclusion. That's something that's always kind of been really high on my priority list, and just trying to make sure that LARPs have as much space as possible and have the knowledge and know-how to act on bringing this incredible art form to as many different kinds of people as possible, because it's not always been accessible to everyone. And we are trying to make steps and make progress in just widening that audience and giving more people the ability to engage with this medium of storytelling. So yeah, that's what I'd love to dive in if you're ready.
Yeah, we are totally ready. Again, I just want to say to our audience that if this gets uncomfortable for anyone, ask yourself why, and think before you type. We're not looking to start any flame wars here, and if I in particular, I can only speak for myself, but if I say something stupid, I'm sorry. But we're all doing our best here, and Lawrence, again, I thank you so much for coming out and sharing your perspective, because I think it's very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And even just there, you've already kind of hit on a couple of points that I like to bring up when we talk about diversity and inclusion, and not even just specifically in LARP, just kind of in general when we kind of broach these topics. It's about being uncomfortable, and like you said, asking why you're uncomfortable, because diversity and inclusion is more than just about making sure that we have whatever the quota is of different groups of people represented. That's a large part of it. Sure, let's make sure that wherever possible, let's make sure that if there are opportunities to have more people in marginalized groups be part of this activity, then we should absolutely go out of our way to do that. But it's not just about making sure that we hit any specific number or we're reaching out to any kind of specific demographic. It's more of an internal kind of search because we as people, we as humans, we as participants in a community are flawed individuals. We all have bias. We all have unconscious bias. We all have things that we're not aware that influence and impact our daily decisions. And when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we have to consider that at any given point, we are making choices that may or may not allow other people who are from different spheres of influence in different places in the world, in different communities and cultures. Each time we make a decision, each time we interact with our community, we're kind of making a choice in that sphere. And I'll get more into specifics on that in just a minute. But before I dive into any of that, one of the biggest things that I like to emphasize, because I think this idea is really pervasive in the LARP world, that especially when it comes to players who are really passionate about diversity and inclusion, because some of us LARPers are really, really passionate about making sure that we get this right. But we also have to understand that at no point is anyone required to go out of the way and make themselves uncomfortable to speak on inclusivity and diversity and anything in that space. There are people who have degrees, there are people who are educated, there are people who have done work to make sure that they can present these topics in a way that is attractive and engaging and something that people want to dive into and really sink their teeth into. And I think that there's this idea that if you are a person of color, or if you are LGBTQ, or if you are disabled or in part of any marginalized group, that there's a responsibility that you have to, just because you're in this space, to go out and recruit people who are like you. And I think that's kind of, I think that can get a little bit dangerous sometimes, because not everyone is prepared to speak on that. Not everyone who is a person of color necessarily has the space or the emotional availability or the intellectual availability. They just don't have the education or aren't willing to go there to talk about or educate other people on why there should be more people like them as part of this community. There are people who are willing to do that. I am one of those people. I have that space. I have not a whole lot of huge education on it, but I do have some kind of information on it. I have spent time in this space, and I do work with professionals who work in the space. So sure, me and plenty of others are willing to do this, but even if we expand it out to your workplace, to your other communities that you're involved in, to anywhere that you just happen to occupy space in, at no point should you ever feel required to, as that person, go out and educate or inform people on why there should be more people in this space. That is not your responsibility unless you choose to do so. And if you choose to, then yeah, at that point, it becomes a different conversation. But I like to preface the whole conversation about inclusion and diversity about with that kind of preface there.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that. I agree. And wow.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get into some really heavy stuff here.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to like immediately come out of the gate with like the heavy hitters here, but it's important because there are going to be times when we're uncomfortable, and we have to kind of identify what that looks like immediately. And if let's say you're in a situation where you are a marginalized person, and there is another person that is also marginalized in the same way that you are, or not represented entirely the same way that you are, then frequently what we see are outspoken members of communities or game owners who want to do the right thing but just don't know how and don't know how to approach the conversation will kind of initiate this idea that, well, this person is a person of color or this person is gay, and we want to make sure that our storyline is representative of those people. So I'm going to ask this person, hey, will you come write this story? Instead of the first question being, hey, are you comfortable with discussing this at all? Are you in this space? Instead of just assuming that because I represent in some capacity this group, that I must be available in some capacity to do that. So we kind of have to dispel that.
And that's
almost immediately.
You know, there's some phrases that I've been told what that is, and like I've always called it the douche chills. It's like when you say something stupid and you're just like, oh, but you know, it could also be defined as white fragility, when you feel attacked because you're called out on something that you shouldn't. So the knee-jerk reaction that I've seen in you know, white people who are confronted with some problematic things that they may or may not do is they'll jump defensive because they'll think that it's automatically the worst spectrum part of that bad thing, not like, hey, that was kind of like, they don't really see the nuance there. And in I guess more in particular is that they don't see the chance for correction and like the chance for understanding that it presents, I guess.
Yeah, they become so people become so defensive that there's no opportunity for learning there, because they immediately put up those walls and then they won't learn from the situation in whatever kind of bias.
And I think that is really, really interesting. We talk about like that defensive barrier, those walls that can get put up so quickly, because I think that's inherent to human nature to be made uncomfortable and then want to defend yourself for being uncomfortable. So disclaimer: here's where those of you who might be concerned about being uncomfortable, this might be one of those times. But we see this on social media a lot. We see a lot of initiatives for people who are not doing something correctly, whatever we decide correctly is in this given situation. And then a lot of other people who inherently do want the best for whatever this is. So we'll say that maybe there's a LARP that is running storylines or plot lines of some kind that is maybe it's a little bit racist. And maybe somebody needs to do something about it. And so we'll see this happen. And frequently what I've seen is not just on social media, but it's most obvious on social media, is that instead of approaching this conversation with let's work on this together and attacking people for not handling a situation appropriately, we'll see that kind of backlash, and then in response, anyone who feels like they are attacked by that will respond by being like, well, I don't know how to do this right. I'm a game owner who just wanted to write a cool story, and sure, there might be some insensitive things I did here because I wrote this 5 years ago and I didn't know, and this plot line just kind of came up and it just kind of flew off the cuff there. And now there are people who are offended and upset. And so we have to approach these situations with some tolerance and some guidance and some willingness to go on a journey together as a community to figure out, what did we do wrong? How do we fix it? And how do we prevent this going forward? Those are usually the steps that you want to take. Unfortunately, what we see a lot is that those steps aren't taken. And people who might genuinely have the best interest in mind will not receive that patience and that grace that they might need to be to be shown like, hey, here's a place you can go to get more information on this, or I have a friend who is knowledgeable in this area. Would you be open to having a conversation with them? Instead, it's, hey, you need to fix this now. We need to cut this plot line. We need to do all these things immediately. And if they don't do that, they're immediately ostracized from the community, or told that their LARP or their story is toxic, and all these other things. And it leads to people not wanting to engage in any kind of diversity or inclusion effort, because the moment they got it wrong, they were canceled, I guess, or the community came after them, or whatever happened, and they just, why would they want to engage with this when it's safer to just not talk about it? So we're not going to have races in our rule book anymore. We're not going to have a diverse set of cultures. We're all going to kind of, for lack of a better word, whitewash everything and keep everything clean, keep everything very straightforward, and therefore restrict our ability to tell interesting stories from a multitude of perspectives and places, because we don't want that. No good storyteller with the best intent wants to make a mistake, and worse, they don't want to be punished for attempting to get it right and then just getting it wrong because they don't know where to get the information. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I think so as well. And I think Crossroads fits into that game designer that did the best they could with the original world of Kosmara, which we are working on updating.
Yes.
But I remember when we first started concepting Kosmara, working on the concept of the world of Kosmara in 2008, and we started with costumes first. So we went like, what are all the cool archetypes of costume types? And that's what we're going to base. And then we took the costume, the culture that the costume was based on, and basically moved the cultures over one so that they were mismatched, but you still got the cool look. And then we take out the, obviously the religious influences, because Alliance doesn't have a pantheon in it. But some of that stuff was unfortunately problematic, and we're updating it. But there is a real challenge with what is flavor and what is hurtful, and that line is different for everybody, and that's art, man. And performance without feeling isn't art, and feeling requires that those comfort zones to be brushed up against. And I really would love that we could run games where we can tell these really extreme stories and know that we're completely safe, but that isn't the reality of our current situation. And I would love to take good steps towards getting there. And I'm very willing to learn, because of how much that my life experience has seen, change me over time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we definitely take steps there to get to a point where we can do that, especially within a specific community, like within the Alliance community, or just even within the Crossroads community. We can have those conversations to get to a place where we can tell more interesting, different kinds of stories that we couldn't before, because we know we're doing it right.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads into this whole point of like, what does doing it right mean, right? Yeah. So there's no answer to that. Doing it right changes based on who you are, where you are, what are your specific circumstances, what groups are represented in your local player base, your area, who can you expect. There's all these different pieces to it that all kind of fit together to make the right answer for your group. But there's definitely also some just like larger advice that you can, there are red flags that you can look for. There's just general good practices and best practices that you can employ. Just right out of the gate, I'm a huge advocate of getting a diversity consultant. You should absolutely be looking for someone from outside your community. That's really important. Someone who is not biased towards looking at your story in favor of you, especially if they're a player, to make sure that their storyline is going to continue in the way that they expect. Look for someone who knows about your community, who has some level of expertise, and you can always reach out to me. I can help you find these people. I can put you in contact with dozens of people who can do this for you. But you want to make sure that you have someone look over your work. And that's before you start running those plot lines, because as someone who has run LARP before, as someone who's been on staff and as a player at over a dozen different LARPs, no one wants to write something really, really incredible and then find out later that this is all kind of problematic, and we're going to have to toss out half of what we've written here because this specific issue is racist, or it means that certain groups of people just can't engage with the storyline because of accessibility issues or because of this or whatever reason. So my suggestion is every year at the beginning, every LARP takes a couple of months at some point during the year to just kind of reset and start their stories from scratch. Whether or not that's the beginning of the year, the end of the year, in the summer, like we did out here in the Southeast, we tend to take a little bit more of a break. That's a perfect time. And you can do a fundraiser for it. Do a fundraiser to hire a diversity consultant so that as many people who want to participate in this and kind of oversee this process, get them involved, get a diversity consultant, get a cultural consultant if your cultures are based off of real life cultures. Bring them on, have them look over the stuff that you would like to run. Don't give them 10 pages of already written story, because the moment they say that this really important factor is not accessible for this group of people, or is offensive to this group of people, or is appropriates this culture in this way, you're going to lose half of what you've written. So do it early. Start at the beginning. As soon as you get an idea for a plot line, get it on a sheet of paper, and then take that whole sheet of paper for everything you think you would like to write and give it to a consultant a couple of weeks ahead of time. And if you can't afford it, then by all means, do a fundraiser for it. You can usually get a really good cultural or sensitivity or diversity consultant for just a couple $100. And those are the really, really good ones. If you can't afford someone who does this professionally, then just reach out to your local community and ask them if they know people from other groups, from other LARPs, because we should all be playing together as LARPers, and be aware that there are other LARPs that exist outside of the ones that we play together. Ask your local community of LARP if they have who they've worked with, or if they know someone who can connect them. Again, anybody who watches this, feel free to reach out to me on Discord. I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. This is an open call to anybody who says, I can't do this work because I don't know anybody who can do this. I promise you, I will put you in contact with somebody in a hurry. If you promise to do the work first, you can't ask for it and then not do the work. That's the easiest step, is just that consultant.
Very much so. And it's also not, it is not a silver bullet or a magic pill that will make everything in your game better. It's a wonderful step in the right direction. Now, I have a little bit of a question about that with you, Lawrence. Now, and I think you kind of covered it with they have to know what we do, because at a certain level, almost all fantasy is problematic. As far as, Renaissance, Renaissance fairs, they're a great time. But if it was like the real Renaissance, they'd be doing some stuff that we would not like in the modern times. So Tolkien itself is very problematic, so where, and I guess that's they're gonna try to help us find the line of like where that line is, I guess, a better definition of.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting that you bring up Tolkien, because so much of our fantasy is based on
all
Tolkien
of it.
work, and
So much of it.
just kind of like right out of the gate, there's tons of, and we could get into the whole thing about whether or not Tolkien was intentional with any of this, or like if this was really the result of the times or whatever. But there are tons and tons of tropes that you see in Tolkien work that still exist and perpetuate negative stereotypes against different people. I don't necessarily want to dive into all that. We'll be here for the next 3 hours just talking about that specifically. But yes, absolutely. That's what kind of the consultant piece is for, is to identify those big major red flags before they become like player facing or get out into the rest of your community. They're not there to identify the little smaller individual pieces that might make your LARP a little bit more problematic for whatever reason. We just have to make sure that we are aware and that we have an open community. We have open communication with everybody in the community, everyone that participates in any capacity. We have to have people who in our leadership that we can trust to call out when we see something that there's an issue. If you don't feel comfortable with approaching someone on staff or the owner of the game or anybody else with a small thing, with just something minor like, hey, this combat felt a little unsafe. Do you think we could have a conversation about that? If you can't have a conversation like that with someone on staff or the owner or someone else, then there's no way they're going to be receptive to, hey, this storyline that you wrote 5 years ago is problematic for these reasons. And so that's a red flag. Yeah. Look for those. Look for those of you who have not LARPed before. I always suggest the first thing you do is go to that LARP's website, see if they have any kind of statement about diversity and inclusion, see if they've done the work before, or if you can't find it, see if you can find their Discord server or their forums or something and see how disputes are handled between players and staff. And that's your first kind of step into, is this community going to be open to criticism? Because if not, do I want to participate in a community that's not open to criticism in public spaces? If they can't put their best foot forward when they're engaging with their own community in public, how are they going to do that when they get to the game that often takes place in forests and on state parks behind like a couple miles of backwoods? How are they going to handle those situations if they can't do it on a public forum? Those are your, again, more things you just want to look out for if you're looking for a LARP. But again, that's also something you can just kind of keep an eye on if you're already engaged in a community. Are these things consistently happening? How comfortable do I feel with approaching staff about any issue? And do I feel comfortable escalating this to the owner of the game or whoever it is that's over them if there's a larger issue?
Yeah, and that can make or break your game for that individual person. And how even when there's not a change made, how a staff reacts to an issue being brought up to them can make or break whether that player is going to come back or not, whether you can solve whatever it is. If you brush them aside because you're busy running your game, you're taking a chance of that is how they will remember you. And that's all you got. So this is the same way with any way that you may treat someone else who you may have not had access to in your real life before, and that goes for a lot of folks in LARP.
Yeah, LARP is such an incredible hobby, and so for me, I'm really passionate about this space because more than any other medium I've really participated in. And this is me as a little bit of a theater kid when I was younger. LARP gives me this ability to explore who I am more than any other medium I've ever participated on. I've discovered things about myself. I've grown as a person. I've grown in ways that I didn't expect. I learned things about myself, and as someone who didn't have the most money or the most access to all the cool stuff or a lot of extracurricular hobbies, I didn't really get to explore things like that when I was a kid. And so I didn't start LARPing until I was like in my mid-20s. And I got to just kind of be myself. I made my second character that I ever made was just very flamboyant. It was just me being who I wanted to be in any given moment. It took me like 2 years to decide there was a rhyme and a reason behind why the character acted the way they did sometimes. But for the first year and a half, it was kind of just like, what would it be like if I did this thing today? I decided today that this character wants to be really brash and bold and like be able to be confident and lead a group of people. And so that's what I pretended to be. And that skill taught me that being able to do that in a safe place, mostly safe place at a LARP, gave me the ability to learn how to be a leader in real life. And now I can walk into a job interview and display those skills, even if I don't necessarily feel confident in myself. I can sure as hell display that confidence better than I could have, 15 years ago now. I started LARPing like 10 years ago. And you can almost consider a lot of this stuff like job training skills.
Yeah.
Things that you wouldn't really get unless you like went to a course. And we get to do it. Sure, there's the barriers of actually like financial costs and things like that. And that's a whole other accessibility rabbit hole that we can talk about. It's just the financial barriers that it requires for people to even get into LARP. And then you get into LARP, and for some people, they've already paid the money, they've gotten the costume, they've read the rulebook, they built the character, and now they're dealing with all this other stuff. They're dealing with like, oh, I didn't realize I was going to have to like protect myself from racism or bigotry in this way. I didn't realize. I loved earlier tabbed at about the fundraiser with or the wish list, getting an accessible place to go to the bathroom. Like that's something that not a lot of people even keep on their radar as something that's needed. That's something we have to consider when we're those of us who don't always have access to a permanent LARP site. We have to look at like, we have a player who's disabled. Does this site have bathrooms that are accessible? Because if not, we are now choosing between that player and our game.
Yeah.
And so we have to consider all those things when we're putting together our communities, really. And so the last thing that we want to do is further ostracize those people that have already had to overcome these barriers and deny them access to this ability, this ability to explore themselves in a way they will never have the opportunity in the same way, by throwing racism at them or throwing bigotry at them or prejudice or whatever the case is, all these other isms that they'll have to deal with on top of all the other barriers of just getting there, having the bravery to know that I'm going to go try this thing and just see what happens. It's already a huge step just to walk into a LARP. Do we also want to have to like frustrate people by making the rulebook have other barriers in it, such as and we can go into the whole conversation about like whether or not blackface should be permitted in LARP, but just the makeup barrier by itself, we don't have to talk about blackface being offensive, but just the fact that we have races that have full color makeup, that means that there are a number of people who can't even play that race anymore. And so now are we going to make a special situation for them because they're allergic to makeup, or because this makeup doesn't represent them in this way and is offensive in this way? Are we going to bar people by making it a requirement? So there's so many of these barriers that we have to kind of contend with.
And that's a lot of the discussion that
that we can do.
Yeah, that's a lot of the discussion that the owners of the Alliance are having right now, and a lot of something that comes into our inbox regularly is the requirements of costuming on how to present in the game world. And I have some of my disagreements with the Alliance system, mainly for hoblings, because I got this, but I still have to put something fake on top of this to delineate to somebody who doesn't know the game system, that knows the game system, knows that I'm a hobling in game, not just a guy with chops. But then like there's also games that go way more extreme to where there's like height and weight requirements for certain races, or even worse, racial requirements for certain races, which is ridiculous to me. But backing off of that, the barrier of coming in as a new player, especially, I was a lower income kid coming up. I made my first kit out of an old welding jacket that I found and cut up, and there was Again, I often speak of the bad old days, but I was, bullied a little bit for the cheapness of my kit and stuff like that. And I can only imagine what someone who has more things that makes them a target to the norm would have to deal with on top of everything else. And the makeup requirements themselves are a real challenge. And I've always kind of fallen back on in the game thing of we do so much what do I see in our game anyway, that as long as especially, and we do this for new players all the time, like as long as you're making an attempt, we're like, oh, that's what you're trying to be a shark dude and it didn't completely work, but cool, you're shark guy, we know that for the rest of the weekend, that shark guy. But when you're trying to codify it across a nation spanning game system and trying to make it fit, and then writing as we have a diversity committee in the Alliance, but it's a daunting challenge when you're trying to face problems that a portion of our country won't even admit exist. And it's always this weird dice roll of like, yeah, we're both LARPers, but what did you roll? I know, because it's a challenging time to be an American for those of you who aren't Americans watching this. But what I'm finding is that there's LARP in so many different other countries that it's doing something good for somebody, and it's worth doing and exploring power dynamics, exploring identity, getting that good acting work in that you can get as much scene work in one weekend of LARP if you're an NPC as an actor can get in a year by doing shows. Because when you do like a stage show as an actor, you're locked into that one role doing the same damn thing every night for 6 months. In LARP, it's different every time. So it gives us opportunities to do it right and do it wrong. So, Lawrence, I guess you want to approach things with open mind, and most people see themselves as open-minded, right? But then we've all seen when we disagree with somebody, kind of that shield go down, and like they lock up and they get defensive. Well, you called me this, so I'm going to swing back at you. And a lot of that has to do with keyboards, which is why I like having these types of dialogues. Is there a successful way that we as the stereotypical LARPer demographic, as white males, what can we do to better make our hobby approachable, more approachable?
It's so lately for me. I had an issue with my heart about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, and since then I've been like slowly recovering and getting better. I'm very lucky to be able to participate with Alliance, and that I can participate on the level that I'm able to, depending on the event. And so each day of that, I've been working towards just like becoming better and becoming healthier and getting back to a place where I feel like I'm at my best. And I've realized that that health journey that I've been on is very similar to what all of us have to go through when it comes to just being better participants of our community, especially with LARP. There's not one single piece of advice that I can give any one person or any one group that says this is how you become better. We have to take it day by day and step by step, and we have to be open to criticism. We have to be open to getting a new perspective, a new worldview, seeing things from the eyes of someone who might be part of a community that maybe you're not super familiar with or not super comfortable with. And if you're not okay with doing that, you have to ask yourself why you're not okay with doing that. And that is okay. If you are uncomfortable with a certain group of people, or you don't understand why these people do that, as long as you acknowledge that and you start taking steps towards being better and towards that understanding and a willingness to show that I understand that this it's probably not okay. I should probably not have these feelings. I should probably be more educated in this way. And you make progress. You don't have to feel like the worst person in the world. That is your first step. How do I make progress? How do I start moving towards progress in this area? And the next thing is just going to be education. Start looking for how you can be better at this stuff. And I would suggest, instead of doing a Google search, because there's so much misinformation out there, start asking around in real life. Ask people, and you can ask people of what you can kind of approach it however you want. You can ask people that you're comfortable with, that you believe have more information on this, or just straight up go to someone who is marginalized, and you want more information on how you can be a participant in a community that is welcoming for them. They don't have to tell you yes. That is the first thing. My guideline has always been like, you can always ask. It never hurts to ask, but just be prepared that as long as that person respectfully says, I'm not in a space to be able to do that, they don't even have to tell you why. Just be open to be like, no, they might give you more resources for where you should go. Yep. But that's your next step. Just start asking people in real life with real experiences, instead of people who hide behind anonymity on the internet.
Gotta love those.
That's probably your first step there, is just be willing to get that knowledge from somewhere. My thought is always that intentional ignorance, if you know that you are not knowledgeable about something that you have to interact with and that affects other people, that willful ignorance is erasure. You are like actively erasing culture when you have to interact with the culture and choose to stay ignorant of it. Mm-hmm. It's one thing it's one thing to be ignorant and not be aware that you're ignorant. If you just have assumptions and no one's made you aware that this assumption is wrong, you can't help how you grew up or what you were told as a child. Yep. But if someone from that culture says, hey, that's not okay, as long as you're okay with being like, can you show me or point me to someone or something that will, then you're at least trying at that point. Just know that you probably shouldn't erase that person by not caring. Yeah. Or by not bringing up an issue that seems like it might be pervasive in your community.
Yeah,
those are kind of your first couple of steps there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think falling back on the kind of mantra in my head of in combat, if somebody tells you you're swinging too hard, they're right. Either swing lighter or stop interacting with them in combat. But their feelings matter. Their experience is just as valid as your own. So a change needs to be made, especially if they take the time to try to correct you. Because I've been taught over my life, if someone of a community takes the time to actually explain something to you, they're trying to keep you. They're trying not to write you off. So Lawrence, I know that this is a subject that we can speak on for hours on. I'd love to talk about some LARP stuff and what some stuff that we have coming up. So if you would like to take any questions or field any other points, more than happy to do it. But I'd love to talk about our opener and then what we're doing this coming weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if there are questions about about anything that I speak on today, by all means, come hit me up and we can jump on a call about it and discuss it. Unless we're talking about plot spoiler stuff, we get those in April. But I'll give you some teasers for sure. Yeah, so there's a lot happening in Coast of Mara right now. So there's lots of like rebuilding and repair of the world, and so like the denizens of Sanctuary have recently. So we defeated the Dark Matron. That was a huge fight. That was a really huge step in the story and kind of a turning point for the adventurers. And so now we're in this really interesting place for everyone, where we're still in a fight against dissonance. That will like almost perpetually be an issue until like some tides turn pretty hard. But while we're in that fight, we did deal a pretty significant blow in that struggle, so that maybe some of that oppression that we're feeling from evil forces is a little bit less, at least temporarily. But we know that there's going to be another villain on the horizon. And so with the deep wilds lately, been kind of encroaching. Some of our players have seen some of that encroaching, haunting, deepening, worsening feeling. Some people have not as much for reasons, and we feel like there's this void that has to be filled in some capacity. Defeating the Dark Matron was a really huge step, but it's almost like removing a cancerous tumor from a person's body. So we got the bad thing out, but we're still healing from that. So we've got to make sure that the sutures are in place. The Dark Matron was really kind of the bane of our existence for a while, like a ticking clock that just wouldn't go away, tick, tick, tick. So what I'd like to do to kind of usher us into this kind of new place that we'll be exploring. I kind of want to position Sanctuary like it's a bakery. I want to make this analogy. The Sanctuary or Cosmara really, Cosmara is a bakery, and this bakery specializes in pastries. So all kinds of stuff, croissants and all other kinds of things. And so we've got all our ingredients. We are in the kitchen. We're ready to make some pastries. And specifically today, we've got this really huge order for bagels. So we're making bagels. Cosmara itself is kind of like the dough. And so we've got the flour, we've got the yeast, and we've got it all ready. We're ready to make the bagel. And then our adventurers, our players, are kind of like the seasoning for that bagel, right? So you've got all different kinds of, think of it like everything bagel seasoning. You've got poppy seeds, you've got sesame seeds, you've got like onion, you've got all the kind of different seasonings in there that make up a nice, healthy, diverse group of adventurers, right? So some people like plain bagels, and that's fine. I like something a little extra with my bagel. But I think most people want a little extra spice with their bagel, a little extra flavor, something to make it stand out. And we've got that, but we're delivering that in a new way. So we've never made bagels here. I promise you I'm getting to the point. So the bagel is born, right? The bagel has been created, but we haven't seasoned it yet. It's just out of the boiling water. So if you're unaware, bagels
bagels are
part of
boiled.
the process is to boil it first. And so it's out of the water. The water was pretty hot, and you might want to consider this hot water like the fight with the Dark Matron, right? So it was pretty intense. It created some things within us that are new and unique, and we kind of have to deal with this. We're in a new form factor here, but we're not done with the bagel yet. So the adventurers come in and they get sprinkled all over this bagel, and they're sticking to the surface, and we're repairing Sanctuary. We're dealing with things outside of Sanctuary, and we're just kind of getting ready, but there's still this last step that needs to be done, and that's to bake it, right? So we have to bake this bagel, but there are components that we as adventurers are unaware of. We know that oven is going to be way hotter than anything that boiling water gave us earlier. We know that's going to change us forever. We know that's going to build a crust that once we come out of that oven, it's never going to be the same, right? More important, however, I think that even though that's going to change us, I think the bigger question is, who is the baker? Who's putting us in the oven? Why are they putting us in the oven? And how did we get here?
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I will leave us.
Heck yeah.
I'm sitting here like, okay, the season's gonna be the oven. Like I'm sitting here like, okay, the season's the oven, and then you come in with the baker, and I went, I forgot about the baker. I was so invested.
Well, India's going to be PCing this year.
I am,
and she's very excited. I am excited.
I'm ready to be a problem.
Yeah, I'm excited to help you tell your stories, Lawrence, on the wonderful backdrop that is Alliance Crossroads. But We're playing more than just the Alliance this year.
Yeah.
So there's a game coming up this weekend, Lawrence, that I'm going down to shoot a remote episode at a different LARP, folks. That's right. We're going on the road down back to Atlanta, and we're going to shoot a game that Lawrence is going to tell us all about right now.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So this upcoming weekend, we have the LARP that I had just started staffing for when I met you. It's called Apotheosis, and this is from a group of people called Legends. The group Legends has been running LARPs for years and years. I've been friends with them for as long as I can remember as a LARPer. I've actually got to help run their kitchen at the last campaign. I was a player, and then I kind of just took over the kitchen for a while. And then we took a little hiatus between like for COVID and things like that. And we are just now kind of launching into our second 3-day event for this campaign. And I'm super excited. The story is kind of just now getting where peak players are understanding what's happening. There's so much stuff happening, and even I think one of my favorite things about this upcoming game is that it's happening on one of my favorite sites to play on. It's Camp Daniel Morgan, and this is on Hard Labor Creek State Park in Rutledge, Georgia. Those of you who might feel like that sounds kind of familiar, or maybe not at all, if you Google it or you look up images of the site, it will probably, especially moviegoers, that will sound a little bit more familiar. And that's because this site was also the filming place for the Jason movies, for Friday the 13th. And so if you go to that site, there might be a couple of buildings that look familiar, or just scenes that look familiar. Obviously, the site's changed a little bit. It was a while ago, but it's just a really cool vibe. I love this site. It's rustic, but it's also got some couple of things in there to just make it a really convenient site. There's 2 kind of towns on either side of the big field where we do our battles, and the tavern. It looks like we're going to have probably about 40 players right now. There's probably about 10 or 12 of us as entertainers and storytellers and staff for this game.
Nice.
So it's going to be a really great time. It is not too late to register, so you can go to legendsgaming.com if you're interested, or reach out to me. I'd be happy to get through the Discord link. And Tab, I think you're coming out to hang out with us, aren't you? Yeah, I'm coming out. I'm going to be NPCing and doing a video shoot for your game. And we're going to try to fast track an episode so we can get it live before the end of this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to start doing some solids for some other games out there so we can spread the word not only about the Alliance, although that is near and dear to our hearts, but there's a lot of LARP out there, and I need to learn more. So the best way I can do that is getting into as many backstages as I can. And Lawrence actually runs... you'll be running like 3 games this year, right? 3 different game systems?
Well, I don't know about running on 3 different. I'm definitely a storyteller for Apotheosis, but then I'm also very excited about Dragon Fest, which is happening in Pennsylvania this year. I am fortunate to be one of the referees for that almost like LARP festival. Dragon Fest is a 5-day long event. You can show up as early as Monday. I can get you dates for that. But you can show up as early as Monday. The
June 17th.
On Wednesday. And then it goes all the way through Sunday, which is when we'll all pack up. And I've not been to Dragon Fest before. This will be my first year attending. So it's really cool to kind of see things from like the backstage perspective. I've never traveled this far for a LARP. So I'm in Atlanta and this is in Pennsylvania. I've never done that before. Just all kinds of new things that I'm super excited about. People that I've known for years that I'll get to meet there in person. Just super excited.
Yeah, it's a heck of a thing. I'm trying to figure out if I can sneak along with a couple of groups that I know. It is like I said, I want to get as many different LARPs under my belt as I can, because there's always tricks of the trade that happen that I always pick up on, and they're always very useful to us operationally. With that being said, Lawrence, I very much look forward to not only our staff meeting tomorrow night, but also the upcoming game on April 13th. That's our opener. Lawrence will be kicking in the door as head of plot, and I can't wait to see what kind of joy you bring to my players, because I really like the work that you do, particularly with like textures and things like that, is really, really fun. And you got some sound stuff coming down the pipe that I'm very excited about, and no spoilers, but I'm very excited. So Lawrence, thank you so very much.
Oh, hang on.
Yep.
Tony just said we offer shared goblin stamps, 30 goblin stamps per day for NPCing at Legends. Wow, okay, so if you guys want to go
Nice.
check out Legends and hop on their volunteers, their monsters for the weekend, you'll get some Alliance goblin stamps for it from Atlanta.
Awesome. Heck yes. See,
Nice.
that's one of these really cool things that are happening, that the LARPs are starting to kind of lace back together. Not necessarily that we're all going to be sharing the same game systems, but I think we're starting to look past our individual game systems and see that
Share the people.
yeah, and share, yeah, and grow the community.
Yeah.
I think more importantly.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of us, and Lawrence, I count you among some of the better LARPers that I've met in my life, and well, you're one hell of a storyteller, and
Yeah.
I'm very, very excited to see what you bring. So we're going to sign off with you, Lawrence. Go ahead and say your goodbyes to everybody and plug whatever you want.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited about all the content that's coming up over the next couple of weeks. It's been so long since I felt like LARP has really just like been at its peak, and I feel like that the time is kind of back on us after the lockdowns and things like that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm hoping I get to come back someday and talk more about just like all kinds of different LARP stuff. There's so much available there.
Yeah.
But until then, by all means, if anybody ever wants to have a conversation or you need help with any of the things that we talked about, you can reach out to me on Discord. I'm part of the Atlanta Alliance Discord, the Crossroads Discord, the National Discord, also the Apotheosis. And if you are a marshal or helping run Drakenfest, I'm in that Discord as well. So yeah, thanks for having me, and I hope to see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Very, very much. And we'll catch you later. All right. So, guys, thank you so very much. I think this is going to be a record for our longest stream
I think so.
ever. We have a couple more things to just hit
out
with you.
there.
We kind of forgot part of our list, but we're going to get it to you right now. Which of the two do you want to deal with first?
Hey guys, last live stream, you know that I talked about a design contest. Well, we had the design contest, and the designs from that contest are now on our website on our merch.
Woo!
We have a Start Your Day with a Goblin Invasion t-shirt from Jason. Go back to the top. Go back to the top. There it is. Start Your Day with a Goblin Invasion. That is, if you're from Crossroads or have played at Crossroads, that's our tradition. Every day starts with a Goblin Invasion.
That's
so
true.
that's there, available in multiple different colors. We also have the Alliance Merchants Guild logo, was submitted to us by Rob and the Merchants Guild and Sanctuary.
Boom.
So we have a bag, a hat, and a notebook for you guys. Go down one more. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like my Sprawl notebook's duplicated, but that's okay. We also have an in-game mug for those of you who want to get one to, drink with at game. And then last but not least, we have the See You in the Circle design there. I don't know why it duplicated, but that's weird. See You in the Circle, submitted to us by Miranda. That is right now just on a notebook, but I am currently formatting it to fit on a hoodie, a t-shirt, and a hat as well. So all those are now up. They have been put on things, and now you can go get them and rep your own art and or your guild.
Yeah, and we're going to be adding stuff to this site all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a cool way to rep out your swag, and I'm hoping to get more and more different team emblems and guild emblems and whatever else our crazy little minds can come up with. I'm super excited about our expanding merch opportunities.
And in that note, the design contest is over.
Yeah.
But if you still have an idea, you can still send it to me. I'll still give you goblin stamps. I just can't give you the bonus XP blanket we were giving people. But send me a design anyway. I'll still give you goblin stamps if it goes on something.
Yeah. And then we have our Patreon. All right. So we have all of our levels of our involvement of the Patreon fundraising platform that we have here. Again, thank you to all of our patrons. There, I believe, will be a discount code for the Patreons that are going out for the merch store. So if you are a patron, you're going to get an additional discount in the store by using that code. So
yes,
it
you should.
Be...
If you're a current patron, you should have already gotten a message from me on Patreon with the discount code. If you're a new patron, I'm just going through the new ones and sending them as I find them. So you'll be getting one. I believe it's for the Hobgoblin and higher tier. So if you're a goblin, we love you. Upgrade and get a discount.
And again, we thank you guys for your help and support with the Patreon. It is it's kind of been our steady funding throughout the year, and it really keeps us solvent and moving in the positive direction. So we're able to recoup some losses and keep the ball rolling. So folks, thank you so much for those that signed up. We are jumping back to those nice problems to have. We got a lot of war chiefs, more than we were expecting, and that is awesome. But there is a plot thing that is connected to the war chiefs that we're going to have to reevaluate throughout this year, depending on how many show up.
So you guys went from like 1 or 2 people to a mod team, so now we have to refix that to accommodate all of you.
Yeah. So, more than likely, as and especially if the war chiefs grow, we're going to have a Valkyrie style side adventure for them to do, and we will continue to incorporate your personal plot lines as we can. But again, it is a nice problem to have, and we are very, very excited because that allows us to get more and more shows done. I will be showing up in Gettysburg the weekend after our opener on April 19th. I'll be up shooting the Gettysburg game. I'm super excited to get back up there. They have a different camp that we're going to be going to. I'm not sure if it's their regional camp or not, but either way, I'm going to take plenty of pictures of it, get an episode shot for season 4, and I'm very excited to see all the Gettysburg folks again.
And last little piece of news updates. If you want to earn dragon stamps and you cannot afford to donate to our current fundraiser, did you know that if you come work a con, you get dragon stamps for that?
Oh,
well, guess what? Right. We're going to be at a con.
We are going to be at a con. It's going to be on April 6th.
Yes.
Do you have any more details about the said con?
I do. So I didn't have that pulled up, but I can. Hang on.
We're working on it.
Yeah. It is the LARP con. This is their first year running this con. It's up in Memphis, Tennessee at the Blackstone Lodge. Lodge. There will be details posted on our website as well as in our Discord for that. It is 11 to 5. So it is a shorter con, easy, 1 day. It's free for attendees. So if you want to come out, check out the con, and if you want to work with us at the con, we would love to have you. But if you just want to come say hi. We'll be there from 11 to 5. If you come work the booth, I will have a sign-up sheet for hour slots, time slots that you can work in order to get the goblin stamps for your time contribution to that. We also would love to have you come in early if you want to help with set up and tear down, because we always need help with that. But yes, we are going to be at LARPCon, and like I said, more details will be posted. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to me because I have all the details on my other email. So
on the other one.
It's in my other pants.
So the cool thing about this little con is that it is LARP centric and LARP focused. So
Black Lodge. Thank you.
Not
Black
only
Lodge.
are we, it's from Twin Peaks.
Oh, yeah.
It's before your time. Anyway, So there's going to be a lot of other LARPs there, and I'm very excited about potentially getting another LARP to run on the Crossroads site, because we are looking at something to, again, fill any kind of income gaps that we can to continue the improvements. And the more people and organizations we get involved, the faster this place will get nice. So we're going out there to try to find somebody to rent our site, and we're also going out there to see if we can maybe get some prospects for an Alliance chapter on the west side of Tennessee, because we got Virginia over here, we got Atlanta down there, we got Gettysburg up there. It'd be cool to have somebody else out there. So I'm always very excited to try to get other chapters in the Alliance, because it's always a very special thing when a world
expands.
exists. It's super cool. I know that there's been a lot of progress in the Alliance with some chapters that are stepping up and getting ready to come live. No public news yet, but things are being gathered, and I'm very, very excited about what is coming for the Alliance. Speaking of that, they have their town hall next week on to the calendar. It is the 27th. Next week, the 27th, is the Alliance's town hall on their Discord. It is an audio town hall. They handle the news of the day. It is a great way to interact with some of the national staff members who are very knowledgeable. Jack, we see you. Definitely Rocky Creek. So I'm very much looking forward to getting shots of that site, so we can plug those regionals for y'all and get out there. Guys, we had a great time. Again, Lawrence, thank you. I very much would like to have Lawrence back on and to discuss some things, because I think
I will get plot details out of it.
I think the more that we can talk with one another, that breaks down a lot of barriers and a lot of prejudgments about one another. Because when you talk somebody out with someone, you realize that they're not as bad as you have been told, or that you are not as bad as they have been told. And I trust that LARPers in general are good, and I'm very proud of our community and what we bring to it. So guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And you got anything else for everybody?
As always, keep an eye on our YouTube channel. We will be posting a new video once a month, with maybe something secret else in there happening. We will be at LARPCon. Check that out on our Discord and our website. We will be at our game April 13th. It's not too late to pre-register. Do it now. Do it now. Please. It makes my job so much easier.
Right now.
Right now. Do it right now.
Right now.
Then we'll be at Atlanta. Come out and see us at Atlanta. We like to play and hang out in Atlanta as well. Come check us out there. And then, as always, you have any questions, you know where to find us.
All right. Well, until next time, guys, remember, the next best thing about LARP could be you. Bye. Bye.